Have you ever wondered how good our brain is at processing information? Let's join this short activity. First, let's try to memorize these numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Huh, so easy. Okay, what about these numbers? Much more challenging, right? Why is there such a difference? Let's learn about our brain a little bit. 1. The limited capacity of our working memory. You probably know that we have a short-term memory and a long-term memory. According to Miller, our short-term memory can only hold and process a limited amount of information within a very short period of time. On the other hand, our long-term memory can store a huge amount of information for a long period of time. As we usually process information in the short-term memory, it's called a working memory. But as you can see, our working memory has limited capacity for holding and processing information. That's the reason why, if we have to learn too much information, or if the learning materials are poorly designed, we may feel very tired when learning. If our working memory has such limited capacity, how can we optimize it to support learning in the best way? To answer this question, we need to understand what cognitive loads our working memory has to carry. 2. Working memory and 3 types of cognitive loads. Imagine that our working memory were like an athlete. This athlete can lift weights very well, but no matter how good he is, he can only handle a certain amount of weight. When we learn something new, our working memory athlete has to carry 3 types of weights. The first one is called intrinsic cognitive load. It represents the inherent complexity or difficulty involved in certain task or material. The more difficult and complex a learning task or material is, the more intrinsic cognitive load our working memory has to handle. The second type is called extraneous cognitive load. It represents the cognitive resources we have to use for the activities and elements not related to the learning goals. This type of cognitive load is usually created by ineffective learning design, which create a lot of distracting elements for the learners. For example, the background music can be too loud. The learning tools are too hard to use. The instructional materials include distracting textual effects, making it very hard for learners to focus on the lesson. The third type is called germane cognitive load. It represents the cognitive resources learners use to connect the new information with existing knowledge in their long-term memory. If the intrinsic cognitive load and the extraneous cognitive load are too heavy, then our working memory will have no space left for the germane cognitive load, the important cognitive resources to help learners understand and retrieve information. So the question is, what should we do with these 3 cognitive loads to optimize our working memory? 3. The strategies to handle the 3 cognitive loads in our working memory. With intrinsic cognitive load, the cognitive resources related to the inherent complexity or difficulty of the learning task or material, we need to manage it to make sure the level of difficulty and complexity will be suitable for our learners. For example, if the lesson includes a lot of new information, dividing the lesson into small components can help manage the intrinsic cognitive load for our target learners. With extraneous cognitive load, the cognitive resources we have to use for the activities and elements not related to the learning goals, we should reduce this cognitive load to make sure there are enough resources in our working memory to process activities and materials related to the learning goals. More specifically, we should reduce the distracting elements that prevent learners from focusing on the lesson. Finally, with germane cognitive load, the cognitive resources learners use to understand and retrieve information, we should increase this cognitive load by designing activities that help learners connect the new information with what they already know in their long-term memory. For example, if our learners struggle with the new information, we can provide hints or suggestions that help learners connect the new information with what they already know in their long-term memory. One important thing to keep in mind is that the cognitive load of certain tasks or materials are not the same for different learners under different circumstances. For example, Certain learning content can be difficult for one person, but easy for another one. Therefore, when we design the learning experiences, we need to do learner research to make sure that what we design is suitable for our learners. In this video, we have learned about cognitive load theory. You now have more insight into the type of cognitive loads our working memories have to handle. If you're interested in learning design, how to create effective and engaging learning experiences, please subscribe to my channel to get updated on other videos. See you soon!